The Canadian Bitcoiners podcast is just two guys and maybe a guest or two discussing Bitcoin, Bitcoin equities, and the related macroeconomic space. It's not meant to be financial advice, so please, if you're doing any investing after listening to our program, do your own research, do your own due diligence, and understand that any money you invest can be lost. The show is meant for entertainment purposes only, and we hope you enjoy the program. Friends and enemies. Something's wrong with my OBS camera. I can see there's a border on my picture. I'll have to fix that another time. Anyway, my name is Joey. That? I think I just repositioned the camera in OBS by mistake. My name is Joey. That's Len. It's CBP Day, but also Len Eclipse Day. It's Eclipse Day.
That border is growing on you, Joey. You're going to be blocked out by that.
It's Eclipse Day. I don't know about you, Len. I went outside today, looked for the eclipse, looked for the sun. All I could see was Uranus.
Did you touch it?
I couldn't reach, but dicey situation out there. Let me tell you. I was just saying to Len before we went on, packed here in Dundas. Lots of people watching the eclipse in the driving park, and different, my neighbors are outside all taking pictures with their welding glasses on. Interesting stuff. But yeah, as we were saying before, cool. You're not going to get to see that again in all likelihood, right? I thought it was 2044. We're having another one. Len tells me it's going to be sometime when we're both returning to the earth from whence we came. Anyway, so what's going on over there? How you doing? Good to see you.
Yeah, I'm not blinded from what I looked at the sun without any protection, or the eclipse without any protection, so I could barely see you, Joey. You're just a haze over there. It's gonna be fun. No, everything is good, man. Everything is good. We had quite a price pump.
Yeah,
overnight.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happened since. I'll be honest.
What's there to talk about? It's not. We got lots of other stuff going on besides price.
I see you're playing with your ball when I first.
I was brushing it. We are the playoffs of this week, so I bought this ball. This is a GST Prime. I am hooked on buying footballs now because it's amazing. Like I said this to you before, playing receiver for all those years, you don't really think about the ball you're catching. But let me tell you, when you're throwing, it's the only thing you think about. And so this one you can kind of see has these leather striping here. So this white is a different material than the rest of the ball, which is cool. And then there's like stitching in the tip where your finger goes when you're trying to hold the ball to give you a little extra point of texture. And then sometimes I throw it off lace too, depending on like what play we're in. God, this sounds so dumb. It's like beer league, but we do have a lot of plays. And so off lace, you can kind of get your hands on a couple of different places where they're stitching too. This is a good ball, but I haven't broken it in. It's still a little slick. Although you can hear now.
Like right? Like it's not like made from the parquet floor from the Boston Gardens.
No.
Right? Like it's just like you just.
It does look nice, though. I'll tell you that. But yeah, it's an ongoing thing. Anyway, my wife thinks I'm nuts. I'm like walking around the house brushing balls and like holding them and spinning them, trying to get my hands on it quickly. You ever do grip strength training?
With holding on your balls.
I know it's important. It's important. You ever do any grip strength training? You play tennis, you play golf. You find that's important?
In the car, I have one of those grip things.
Yeah, you do, eh? And you think it helps?
Right there. Yeah. And my car is out of service now. The clutch.
What?
Incredibly.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna come back hopefully in the next couple of days.
Nice.
This is stuff this is beyond my repair because it looks like it must have sucked in air or something in the hydraulic clutch system, and I pressed the clutch down. It never came back up, and
that's good. Where were you when it happened? Hopefully in your driveway or something.
No, in the parking lot. I was happy that it happened there, and even if it was on the highway, I wouldn't give a shit. I would just would have just coasted to the side of the road. It's just It sucked, but you know what? That came after the event. Thank you, Tom and Nick, for inviting us to your event on Saturday. It was a phenomenal event. And my daughter had a lot of fun over there. Your Life, Your Terms event. They do this 2 or 3 times a year, and they hold it at the International Center in Toronto. This year they had Maurizio from Leiden as a keynote speaker. I didn't stick around to listen to him.
Because I didn't see Tom's economic update. It was a great event though. Like you and I go and they really pump us up. Like they were joking with us that they called our names and put our faces on the slide deck at the opening portion of the opening portion of the day, and we weren't there yet. So I feel kind of bad about that. But like it's a great event because it's people who are all aligned in understanding that there's something wrong with the money in the economy and we have to find ways to protect ourselves. And it's funny, the guy who was taking who was helping assign badges and give people names and stuff, this guy James, used to work out at the Good Life on Upper James here in Hamilton, where I worked out when I was living on the mountain. And immediately I said to him, I'm like, man, it's funny. You go to these events and you always see people who you see other places in your life. And these people have the same good habits. They have the same schedule. They have the same everything, right? So I was going to the gym, 7 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning before taking my French classes. And it was good to see him and meet him. I'm glad that he was there. Big shout to Mark and Anthony, who are doing their FinLit class online now after running a pilot in person. I know Sabrina was hyped about that. Your little one was pretty excited.
She wants to join up, and I went on the website to take a look how to do it. I think I have to sign up for first I think it's a trial before you're able to fully sign up. I couldn't find a way to just directly sign up without going through the trial. So I don't want to do the trial. I want to just sign up. I'll reach out to them to make sure that's the process. But yeah, it's a financial literacy for teens.
FinLit. Yeah.
And so she's very engaged and looking forward to talking. Even though she's not quite there, she's turning 11 in 16 days or something like that. But I think she'll be able to survive that course.
Yeah. So that was good. And then of course the Bull Bitcoin guys, where I spent almost my entire time there, because as soon as you talk to those guys, first of all, we talk to them all the time, thanks to the partnership we have with Bull for the show, and they've become, friends of ours. And I've met them a handful of times, like in Toronto last year. We did go to the bar one night. That booth, of all the booths there, okay, there's a lot of stuff about real estate, vacation homes, different like traditional ways to invest your money. Len, that was the busiest booth. You told me that was the busiest booth last time at the last event that I couldn't make it to. Busiest booth again on Saturday. Crazy, man. The number of people who come in there and just say, look, we don't know enough about Bitcoin to buy on our own. We want you guys to help us. They were wheeling and dealing the entire 3.5, 4 hours I was there. It was wild to see.
They had to bring in more people from this time around, because the last time.
Who was there? Kev, Guillaume,
I don't want to name names.
Matthew. Well, everyone knows their names. They were all there. It was a loaded booth, man. And the revolving door, people coming through, leaving with information about wallets, leaving with information about OTC white glove, leaving with information about why Bitcoin over other stuff, why self-custody is important. You can't beat that. Who else is giving you that? And I'm not just saying that to sponsor the show. Truly, who else is giving you that in the space? Nobody.
And if you're getting this information from a guy named Pablo, like that's
great. That's mustache to match on that guy too. I love that.
It's the first time I met. So Kevin and Pablo was the first time I met them both. I love chatting with them.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was nice meeting you all again.
Yes. If you're watching the show, a lot of you guys. It's flattering, Len. Every time we go to one of these events, people come and they say that they watch us or listen to us. And Tom and Nick, they loved our appearances on their show. And I mean, you can't beat it, man. It's a community of people, and it's not just CBP. It's Your Life, Your Terms. It's other Bitcoin stuff. It's other investing stuff where people are realizing all at the same time something is wrong. It's a movement. And, I think I won't speak for you, Len, but I imagine you feel the same way. I'm just happy to be a part of it. That's all. It's nice to come here Monday nights and do stuff on Saturdays. Although, damn, man, an hour drive and started at like 8:15. That's tough on a Saturday morning. I got to tell you, that was a tough Saturday morning for me.
The traffic was minimal, I would imagine. So it's basically just
hey, where do you live? A 20-minute bike ride or something? You're close to there.
No, it took me 25 minutes to get there. And plus on the way back, remember, I lost my car temporarily. So it stung. Anyways, Joey, it's time for our sponsors. I think it's a good time to bring up that.
Let's do it. So EasyDNS, Mark and the guys there. What?
Mark, why didn't he?
I know he couldn't make it. He slept in, he said. Damn. Yeah. So Mark, not great on Saturday mornings, but I will give a shout out to Mark, and someone who listens to the show tried to buy 2 domains and had a bit of a hiccup with the referral code. Mark hopped into action right away. There is no doubt that Mark wants you, listener, viewer, to be successful with your ventures on EasyDNS the same way we have been, and he will help you get there. So whether you want to register a domain, do some VPS stuff, Nostr Relay, BTC Pay Server, Bitcoin Node, you name it, okay? Even if you don't know if Mark can help you with it, I guarantee he will try, and he will give you the best of his abilities, no matter what the issue is. We've been using them a lot. We publish on our website a couple of times a week now. You get the research report. You got the week upcoming. Our buddy Bitcoin Scribe posting some stuff there about payment apps last week. Very good article. Highly recommend reading that if you haven't already. And eventually, maybe a mailing list. I don't know. We'll think about it. It's on the roadmap.
It's coming. It certainly is. And our second sponsor is
Wait a minute. If you want to use EasyDNS, wait, I didn't even give the promo code. That's
go right ahead.
Here's the promo code. CBP Media. Go there. Buy a domain. You should be hoarding them anyways. Domains, unlike Sailor says, the second best asset truly is domain names. So
you think so?
About it, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's up there probably, right? Better than silver coins, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, if you got a good
go there and use the code.
Yeah. Well, Bull Bitcoin is our second sponsor. And look at the price behind me, 71,930. So there's a lot of people out there that have interest in Bitcoin just because it's gone up in price and it's driving people to buy Bitcoin. And Bull Bitcoin is a great place to buy your Bitcoin. You could also sell your Bitcoin if you wanted to through them. And it may be a good opportunity to do so given the price, what it is right now. They give you the option to buy it not just on-chain, but when fees are high. They're not high right now. They may in the future. They may very well in the very near future. So you can buy through Lightning. So you have different options. So you can still buy Bitcoin even in a high fee environment and still pay very cheap fees, just simply using the Lightning option that they provide people. And other options they do provide is you could pay your bills with Bitcoin. Again, price of Bitcoin being almost 72,000 right now. It's a good opportunity to start spending the Bitcoin that you've accumulated in the past, well, however long you've been accumulating Bitcoin for. And you could use that to pay your bills, like a car payment, a mortgage, electrical bill, whatever the heck you have. Also, you could use the Bitcoin through Bull Bitcoin and buy gift cards and spend that in the real world. Yes, that's a really cool feature. But the last thing they have, and it's going to be mothballed for, well, I'm not sure how long, but at least we have 1 week left of this.
Temporarily.
KYC free buys. You go to Canada Post. April 15th is the last day you could do this. You go to Canada Post, load up your... Well, give them Canadian dollars and to load up your Bull Bitcoin account. With that, you go buy KYC free Bitcoin. I talked about the merits of owning it. You got 7 days, 6 days ish to buy it through Bull Bitcoin.
15th,
do it, execute
right,
that.
15th, I think, last day.
15th, yeah. So I'm not sure if it's the midnight of the 14th. Like, I'm not, somewhere around there. I would say don't do it anytime past Sunday next week. That's my suggestion. But use our promo code below, and if you do that and open an account, you'll be having $21 added to your account once you provide all the necessary information and fund your account, or just go to iwantbitcoin.ca.
Perfect. So now we can return to our regularly scheduled programming, ball brushing ASMR.
Brush it good. Rub it up. I got some boost, Joey. You could rub your balls while I while I do this. So, Doug and Roop, 315 sats. The European Union has no chance when Bob Burnett rolls into town. Grateful for his personal and electrical energy for keeping both the network and the asset safely in our hands.
He's a beast. Sure. By the way, I think Doug, for the first time, joining us in the live stream here without it being past his bedtime, thanks to where he's hanging out tonight.
Yeah, I don't know if it's past his bedtime. Is he out west? And he's
did he say? I thought he said that in the tweet. I got to look back now, but I think he said it's not past my bedtime, which is great. And he's enjoying a Peony Lane wine too. Ben Justman, shout out.
Very nice. Mo BTC Dick, 500 sats. He writes in, "Fuck, I love Bob." So do I.
He's great. He's great. I disagree with this John Walker take, but that's fine. We'll talk about that another time.
Mo BTC Dick, 500 sats. Again, same thing. He says, "You guys see the Hut 8 Reddit Ask Me Anything?"
Yes, I did.
He writes absolutely tragic stuff. I did see a little bit about it, but I didn't, I know they had to move it from one form, from one subreddit to another because getting downvoted every time they reply back. Maybe you could give some insight into that before we move on to the rest of it.
I wonder if maybe All Caps could give some insight into it, since he would know better than me, probably thanks to his connections with the Reddit team, the Reddit Bitcoin crowd. I don't know, All Caps, if you can share something. My understanding is that they posted it on the R Hut 8 or R Bitcoin sub, and it just got obliterated by downvotes and reporting from people who are like, we don't want to see this shit here. It's not Bitcoin. And I happen to agree. And you're starting to see this more and more, man. The miners are falling out of favor. I was listening to McCormick today because he had on James Lavish and Eric Yakes, and he's got Iris Energy, who we've had on the show. We had Dan Roberts on, many moons ago. And one of the things, that we've talked about since, as far as like having certain miners and not having others, is I don't want miners who are like, no, we're a data center company now. That's exactly what all these guys are doing. They realize that there's not going to be money in mining long term, and instead it's going to be something to do with compute. Now, I will say a favor to the show, Cathedra looks to be expanding in this direction too. I have faith in Drew and AJ and the team over there that they will not sell out the Bitcoin mission like some of these other guys have. And so I want to have Drew and AJ on at some point when they finish their operation. But to go back to what you're saying about the Hut thing, hilarious. What did you think was going to happen? Reddit AMAs hardly ever go smoothly unless it's like Bill Nye. That's like the only probably guy you could go on Reddit and do an AMA. Cuban got rocked too. He got destroyed. Yeah, there's not been a good. I don't ever go to the Reddit homepage, like the algo homepage, but I've never had like an AMA fed to me or sent to me that people thought was good or went off without a hitch. Most of the time it's like gotcha questions these people have been avoiding. I don't know who in their right mind would do a Reddit AMA, honestly.
I guess if they ask us, you're going to say no.
I'm out. I'll do a video AMA. That's it.
I'll only do audio. There you go. So yin in the end. So Doom Damazum 521 sats. Madex rules. Respect. I thank you
best
for your time.
We ended up kicking Madex all from you guys. What, you don't want to share the number?
No, I don't want to. We won't share the number.
We won't share the number. We don't have to. But it was a nice chunk of change, man. That will, I'm sure, make things a little easier to stomach for him as far as that whole Dave Bailey JPEG thing.
Did it this morning. So
yeah, we sent it all this morning and he's very grateful. Huge, man. So you guys really came through there. That's outstanding. It's amazing that we have that kind of community that can do that for somebody. So
so the next boost you're going to be sending us, we'll send it to a different cause and we'll report that once we get there. So right now we'll just accumulate. Yeah. Doom the Mazin also writes in for another 521 sats. Thank you for your time. He always writes that. Our time is scarce, then precious like Satoshi's are.
Wow. He's expanding the boost text. Nice. Okay, nice. Good.
Sir Snacks a lot, 850 sats. Bob convinced me to point my miner to Ocean Pool. Gotta help contribute to decentralization. Really enjoyed him coming on and sharing his ethos.
Yeah. So he said on during your interview that Ocean gets more Bitcoin per terahash when he points his hash there than other pools. I was surprised to hear that.
Yeah, he's getting a better reward from just pointing it over there. So yeah, take that for what it's worth. If you're looking for more rewards, and this is indeed the truth, so you'll probably get better value by doing that.
Yeah.
So point your hash rate to
Ocean. You do the first story, do the summary. I'm gonna try and fix my camera while you do it.
Okay. Well, we'll just be really quick on this one because this is one I'm curious to hear your thoughts. The United States, they are moving forward to sell off some of their Bitcoin. They've been continually doing this for past, several years. And this time around, it's looks like a bunch of Bitcoin has been moved to Coinbase, And this is Bitcoin that they confiscated several years ago. In fact, this was during the whole Silk Road fiasco. And since they've accumulated this Bitcoin from this particular seizure, they've made massive gains just by holding it on their hands. So this amount that they're moving to, I like the thumbs up, this amount that they're moving to Coinbase for selling, it looks like it's 2,000 Bitcoin in total. This only represents some of their overall Bitcoin stash. The United States government is holding on to a significant amount of Bitcoin, and it's suspected eventually they're going to dump this all. But anyways, the process of this whole move was actually pretty funny because initially they moved only around $65 worth of Bitcoin to that Coinbase address. I'm guessing it's a way to test out that they understand how Bitcoin works before they move the whole enchilada. But the value which they moved was ultimately $131 million. But it's funny that they started off with just $65 worth, and then just to make sure that they understand the whole process. So I gotta give them credit. At least they're doing it the right way. They're being prudent, but it seems like they don't have the right people working over there in terms of understanding what Bitcoin, how to use it. But anyways, the estimates show that the United States still have about 30,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet just from Silk Road, and they have so much more Bitcoin. So that 30,000 Bitcoin, that's about worth about $2 billion. That's as of last week. It's the price of Bitcoin has gone up since then. So that's a lot of money they're holding on, and they have another address. The United States does that holds another 94,000 Bitcoin, around $6 billion that they confiscated from hackers. Now that's $6 billion. Again, I'm quoting from last week's price. So things have changed since then. The question I have for you, Joy, I'm curious as to the answer for this because I couldn't find it. Why are they slowly selling this Bitcoin? This time they're moving 2,000 to Coinbase to sell, and I presume they're going to move their remaining 30,000 from the Silk Road and sell that as well. But why not do it in one shot? Doesn't it make sense for them to do this, or just piecemealing it, doing 2,000 here, a few thousand there? Is that advantageous for them? I'm wondering, what's the thoughts behind this?
They got to sell it to cover Janet Yellen's IPA habit. You see her bomb down that beer in Japan or wherever she is, China. Her and Blinken.
No,
they're out on some.
IPA?
They're up. It's an Indian Pale Ale. India Pale Ale. Someone in the chat can correct me. It's the real hoppy beer. Anyway, she's every time I see Janet Yellen, she's bombing down a beer overseas, either mushrooms or beer. Right? Wasn't that the story before? She's on mushrooms on her last trade trip. I don't know why they're doing this, Len. I have no idea. I do think it's funny that they're clearly sending test transactions. Like, I don't know what else that could be. You got a couple billion in Bitcoin and you just send like $60 or whatever. Like, it's so obvious. I love it. I don't know. Like, I can just imagine the room where there's like 5 people in there. 4 of them or 3 of them are like extremely competent guys like you and me who like have Bitcoin on their own, understand how the transactions work, understand addresses and things like that. And 2 of them are just old head blue plate boomers. And the kids are like, yeah, let's just send this stuff. We can get it all there in one shot, pay less fees, whatever. It'll be obvious, but it's going to be obvious either way. And someone on the blue plate side of the table goes, shouldn't we send just a little bit first to make sure it works? And they're like, well, I guess.
Just to test it out. Maybe it's prudent to do that. I could give them, but
okay, fine, but it's still funny. Like, this is the US government, you know, like that's not what they should be doing.
Does that? Somebody that has never used Bitcoin before.
Exactly.
But once you've done it once, then you understand the process, and you just just make sure that the address matches what you're copying and pasting. Then you're okay. But the first time you ever do it, I know you're apprehensive. Is this going to move? Is this going to be lost? So these guys, they might be just sheer rookies for that. It's just interesting how they're doing it. Yeah, I would love to know why they're just doing this just in small chunks. Also, 2 more items I just want to add to this.
Sure.
One, you talked about it last week. They're using Coinbase. That's the exchange they're trying to nail to the cross, and they're using them to sell their Bitcoin.
Insane.
That's number one.
Hilarious.
The second thing, and Odell, I think, was the first one I've ever seen mention this. This is several months or maybe years ago. He was saying, if Bitcoin is something that is something like cocaine, for instance, when you seize cocaine, you destroy cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get Bitcoin, seize it, but sell it, it's legitimizing it. Right? You wouldn't sell something that you wouldn't want to have a lifespan to it. You wouldn't want to the life continuing to that. If you truly think Bitcoin is bad, if you think Bitcoin should end, just like they would say drugs, like cocaine, for instance.
Yeah.
They would destroy it, but they're not doing it. They're selling it.
Yeah, I get that's a pretty good engagement tweet from Matt, but I think the real thing is that if there was a cocaine exchange and a cocaine ETF, they would sell it. It wouldn't matter what kind of destructive behavior it caused. The thing is that there isn't. So unless KJP is going into the, alleyways of Chicago or whatever and just going like, hey, buddy, like, you need a dime bag, half an 8 ball, like half quarter, whatever, like, you're not gonna be able to sell it. So it's not possible, right? It's better to take the PR and just say, yeah, we destroy every bit of coke and whatever else we seize, right? But for Bitcoin, it's easy to sell it. We know they're starved for cash. They can say whatever they want about, oh, we just sell it because we don't want it or we don't believe it's worth anything. But it's clear that they're getting something for it. They don't just sell it and then actually, you know what? They do sell it and burn the money. They send it overseas and do whatever with it. But generally speaking, I would say that
they ever destroy the guns?
I don't know. Good question. I honestly, Len, I'm not convinced that like a lot of PDs even destroy drugs. Like, people have drug habits in those institutions too. And I can just imagine that there's times where they don't get seized or don't get put into evidence or don't get whatever. I think it's irrational or naive to think otherwise. Not pointing fingers, not naming names, but it just seems unlikely that over a broad swath of all these different arrests and confiscations, that all of it gets into a lockup somewhere. I mean, Law and Order SVU didn't make up the evidence tampering episodes. They heard it somewhere first, I'm sure. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. Do you think they're going to ever mention this down the road? Like when Bitcoin hits 100K, is Peter Doocy going to, ask Corinne Jean-Pierre, hey, by the way, like you guys sold, you can't figure out the SPR and now you can't figure out Bitcoin either. Like you're losing on every trade you try and make. What's going on over there? Should you be calling is Arthur Hayes, in your Rolodex? Can he be running your prop desk at the White House? Because you're getting fucked every time you get on TradingView. You might want to bring in some outside help.
And it's never going to be discussed, at least not for the next year. They have an election coming up. That's going to be the thing. But yeah, we'll talk about the election later this episode.
Really? Wow. Early for us for the election.
Well, no, we talk about it every week. There's always something that connects
tangentially
to it.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyways, keep on the Coinbase topic because they announced they're going to be starting to have the Lightning Network offered to its customers. Now, it's going to be some time before this is ultimately rolled out, but they have at least announced this. And from what I could tell, they're not doing this with their own personnel in-house. They're using Lightspark to help them bridge this connection here. So, which is, I don't know, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth, the fact that they don't have, or they choose not to have the employees do it in the house. But anyways, if they could outsource this,
how much do you know about Lightspark?
Very little, to be honest.
Okay, so let me give you some oppo here. This is from the research I usually do. I didn't put it in the newsletter, but I knew we would talk about this. So people online are pointing out a number of things here. It's run by a guy named David Marcus. You know who David Marcus is?
Name doesn't yet ring a bell. Maybe it will.
I went to school with a guy named David Marcus, actually, but it's not the same guy. This guy was the chief tech officer behind the Libra attempt about 6 years ago.
Yes.
Okay. When Facebook basically tried to dethrone the USD out of nowhere, tried to make their own currency, obviously, kicked down immediately by the US legislature. So that's his claim to fame. He runs Lightspark, which is an A16Z company, Andreessen Horowitz. Coinbase, also an Andreessen Horowitz company. And my understanding, listening to All In and looking at Andreessen's, if you go back in Andreessen's tweets, you can see he promotes a lot of the times where his portfolio companies work together. And so, if you listen to guys like Odell and Marty, they'll make the case that, and I think it's true, like it's like demonstrably true, that Andreessen Horowitz really promotes his companies to work together, wants his companies to work together. So they kind of, I think, fit here a little bit, but I'll tell you why this is concerning. I think David Marcus was the guy, and maybe if All Caps is still here, can he tell me, or can he tell me if I'm wrong about this, or one of you guys listening, watching, is he not the guy who tried to get Lightning to KYC with some kind of like improvement request where you just add a text field to Lightning transactions and the text field basically is like filled in with your address and name? I thought that was him, or that he was part of that, or Lightspark was part of that. And I'm not 100% sure if that's the case. I should have looked, but I was thinking about that earlier and I can't remember. Someone tried to do that a while ago. I am sure that we talked about it. And I'd be curious to see if anyone else has seen that or heard that. So I'm the Coinbase Lightning implementation is going to be dog shit. These guys are in bed with the SEC. These guys are trying to appease regulators at basically every turn. Marx's history is with CBDC adjacent products and projects. And that he tried to get this stuff through in Lightning as far as identification. Then when you add to that Coinbase actually won't let you use Bitcoin unless it's on their platform already for transactional stuff, you're only going one direction. They're trying to build a bit of a walled garden. Now they're way too late because there's so many other Lightning implementations that are ahead of them. And I think as an exchange, they have a lot of people who are not using Lightning anyways. So I don't think it's going to work for them. And I'd be curious to see how much traffic they get when they start doing their quarterly reporting. Armstrong will have to talk about this if there are any competent analysts, in late April, early May. I forget when their report is, but there will be a question about Lightning implementation. And if there are any competent analysts out there, like I was saying, they will ask the question, don't you think that you're too late to the game here? And how many of your customers, given that you've been telling us for 4 years, basically since you went public, or 3 years since you went public, that you're a trading platform and you cater to traders, you cater to new tokens, you cater to all these things. Don't you think that this is a waste of time? Unless you're doing it for other more nefarious reasons, like trying to get people to KYC on Lightning, which is, famously opaque. That's something I think I want to keep an eye on. And I expect that he'll have to answer questions about that. You're more of a Lightning guy than me. Do you think that they can make inroads as far as market share for Lightning wallets, channels? Like, what is the plan here? It's still very difficult. Coinbase doesn't have any of this stuff built into their app functionality at the moment. So what exactly is the plan as far as rolling this out?
If I'm going to guess, and this is totally a guess, it would be similar to the bull Bitcoin model, where if you're going to buy Bitcoin and move it so you could custody your Bitcoin, and if fees are rather high, then it's going to encourage users to not use on-chain and pay a hefty fee and use an alternative like Lightning and pay cents. So that's where I'm guessing that's how they're going to be using it, as a way just to have users buy Bitcoin and take custody of it without using on-chain. So if that's the case, then two things are going to happen as a result. Number one, you're going to take away some of the congestion on-chain. I'm not sure how much congestion Coinbase adds to on-chain right now, but if they're going to be offering Lightning as an alternative and people choose to use that, then obviously it's going to take away some of the on-chain demand. But on the flip side, then Lightning does have a ceiling in terms of how much capacity it could deal with. And we talked about the scaling issues with Lightning right now.
So you think they'll push it close to capacity if it really is successful? It like negates the whole attempt anyway. That's interesting.
It brings us closer to the capacity. I'm not sure if we're dangerously close with this being implemented, but it's just another set of users that are going to potentially be using it. And then, how much closer are we to the capacity of the Lightning network? And
that's a good thought, Len. That's
something needs to be addressed. So it's good and bad in a way. Like, to be perfectly honest, having us achieve capacity in Lightning Network is bound to happen. Be it today, tomorrow, next year, 10 years, it's going to eventually happen. You don't want to accelerate this thing. I don't want to use that term. You don't want it to push it any faster, so to speak. You'd rather let development go on its own. But Coinbase, if they're going to offer Lightning as an alternative, and I'm just assuming this is what they're going to be using it for people to buy it on high network fee environment, then it's just going to make Lightning more congested. And is that a good thing? I think so. Let's put more money in Lightning. Let's put more thought and ideas to scale it out and move from there. But I don't know. That's just my 2 cents.
I got to be honest. And it's funny, Mark in the chat is telling me I should have a cope session on Coinbase. This is it, Mark. Okay, I'm coping. This is it right here. I wish that they would have thought like this 3 years ago, because if they had put out something like around a Lightning implementation 3 years ago, they could have taken arguably some of the better minds that came to the Lightning space over the last 3 years to try and help scale this thing and given them the resources they needed to get products out that could have negated things like the high fee inscriptions thing we just went through and are continuing to go through. But instead, they fucking tried to make money on it. And they offered this other stupid layer 2 thing, base or whatever it's called, and shitcoin offerings. And like, it's just frustrating for me as a Bitcoiner and as a bag holder of that stock that they're 3 years behind. Like, everyone else has already been trying to do this. And now you're going to show up and try and do it. The people on Coinbase don't want Lightning. They don't care about it. You guys missed the boat here because you didn't implement it when it was new, novel, and needed to be built, and there was opportunities to like co-opt some of the influence and build in Coinbase product, right? But they didn't do that. And so Lightning is probably better off for it. I will admit that. But as far as like a business development angle on this is like, I think it's really poor. Honestly, I think it's really, really poor. I'd be curious to hear what SB says. So maybe I'll ask him, see if he's got anything to say about it. And if he's got an angle, I'd love to hear it. He's not as technical as you and I, but he will be looking at their reporting when it comes out from both a point of personal interest and because it's part of his job. And so I might ask him to say like, hey, like what's in there about this? Is there anything of note fee structure wise? That's the other thing, right? Like their platform is like, admittedly, even the ETF custody is not going to make them enough money to keep the stock price where it is. They need trading fees. So what is the plan? Is this going to bump trading fees? Arguably, this reduces trading fees, does it not? You're not taking like I don't get
the spread is still the spread. And so
yeah. I know that. But like people sending, I don't know. I just
they're not taking the fees. The fees are going to the miners.
You're right. Yeah. You're right. I got ahead of myself there, but it's just like I look at this company and every time they do something and make a huge announcement, I just think that you're late. You're late again. You wasted 2 years doing something that didn't take off. I mean, the base thing is one thing that we don't talk about a lot because it's just outside of the stuff we care about. But not the base thing. What was the thing they launched? Like an NFT platform. Remember that? And it got like $1 million of traffic in like 6 months. Like nothing. You know what I mean? Like it's like you guys completely missed the boat. Completely. And like it's too bad. It tells me something about corporate culture there because Armstrong, as a leader and as a Bitcoin guy, I think honestly, like save your tomatoes. Like don't throw them. but he gets it. I think he gets it. He was anti-woke. He told his staff no politics or fuck off. And that company has since been producing. The problem is the production efficiency is all going to the wrong stuff. That's the problem. And I don't know how you fix that. That's a corporate culture issue. And it's not fixable just because a guy doesn't want to talk politics in his Slack DMs. It's not, you have to have vision, and I'm not convinced that he has it.
It's time to jettison him and get somebody else. And
damn, who we putting in there?
In the right direction.
You?
I mean, no, gosh, no. I don't have the competency to
Let's
do that.
Let's get Francis in there. Let's start the Francis running Coinbase hashtag.
Yeah, turn it into a Bitcoin only. Let's make it, give them the same type of features that does bull Bitcoin. But you know what the problem is? I don't think Francis would ever do that. Once this is a problem with every company out there, every exchange out there, that once you become publicly traded, you're trying to chase fiat gains. And this is unfortunately the reality is what you're trying to do. You're trying to appease your shareholders. It's not trying to appease.
It's not even about like that's even too esoteric. It's you have a legal duty to make money for the shareholders. Wherever that road takes you, you must follow it. And you are seeing that with publicly traded companies in the space. We talked about this offline. I will not discuss more, but Coinbase is one example we talked about, but there are others too. Well,
since we're talking about fiat, let's talk about fiat options for traders out there, because there's a couple of things I just want to bring up that I find to be interesting. So number one, ProShares. They've launched this is the very first, a daily 2x Bitcoin ETF. And
love it.
So
how much did you buy? 10,000? Did you buy 10,000 first day?
Why would I even do that? We have something similar to Canada. It's not a leveraged one, but anyways, so BITU is the ProShares Ultra Bitcoin ETF. So that is the bull case. And SBIT is the ProShares Ultra Short Bitcoin ETF. So that's the bear case. So you have BITU and SBIT. Both have been listed as of April 2nd on a New York stock exchange. And for those who are thinking about using this, remember, these are rebalanced on a daily basis. So it's advisable not to keep your money in there, especially if Bitcoin is going sideways for some period of time. If there is a long period of time of Bitcoin going up or a long period of time of Bitcoin going down, then yes, it may be advantageous to buy something and keep it. But who has a crystal ball to predict this stuff? So this is just for traders out there who want to take advantage of volatility that exists in Bitcoin. So I'm not, I'm definitely not going to buy any of this. It's available only in the New York Stock Exchange, so why do we even care about buying it here in Canada? But anyways, I don't know. I'm not sure if you have any thoughts on this, but no, I do have another story I'm going to add to this.
The MSTR one, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Yeah, I like that one.
So I guess tied to the first story I was talking about, keeping up with the fiat options out there, there is a new inverse leverage. It's an ETF that's been filed. The prospectus has been filed by Defiance. And what this is a 2x short on MSTR ETF. The ticker and the fees, they haven't yet been publicly made available. So this is going to be the twice daily inverse performance of MicroStrategy. So similar to what I was talking about the ProShares, this is now specifically to do with MicroStrategy, and there's only the short, the 2x short. There's no bull case here. This I find really interesting because you're talking now a Bitcoin ETF that is tied directly to the price of Bitcoin minus the management fees.
Yes.
MSTR, you're investing in a company that does software solutions, but does have a significant amount of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So it's almost a derivative of Bitcoin. Now you're going to be having the potential of having
it's double beta. It's double beta. You get the Bitcoin beta plus the MSTR. This is going to rip people's faces off for sure.
Anything is going to be possible here because MSTR has had a wonderful run up in the past 15 months or so. I'm not exactly sure, but it's been a great time for people that have invested in them. But what goes up eventually does come down. There's going to be some balancing move. I'm not going to say MSTR is going to go down, but you never know. 7 straight months of green for Bitcoin. I'm not sure if we're going to have an 8th straight month. We'll see. Potentially, we have a halving coming up, but either way, that's a topic for another time. I don't know. There seems to be a lot of interest in the shorts. Granted, this is not the most shorted stock out there, but still there seems to be a significant amount of interest in shorting MSTR. Now you have an ETF that's going to be 2x the daily leverage, or the daily inverse on that. Like, I don't know what's going on. Is the MSTR
how inclined to self-harm do you have to be to take a 2x short on MSTR? Like the fiat mind, some of the fiat FinTwit guys I get sent from friends of the show, like Massa will send me stuff sometimes. Like the people in his sphere, you know, Massa Capital is a pretty big FinTwit account, like a medium-sized FinTwit account. The number of things on his timeline where people not only hate Bitcoin, but hate MSTR and hate Sailor. Like it's a pure, just like black, my heart is black, icebox where my heart used to be for the millennials play against Mike Saylor. It is like, how else can you describe this? There's no reason why you would ever risk this when the price of Bitcoin moves basically on animal spirits only at this point, right? Like it's like, it is true. I like Bitcoin. You like it. I get why it's valuable. Don't get me wrong. But to say that this thing is not volatile is a lie. And if you're going to risk 2x short on it, fine. But then to risk 2x short on the high beta derivative in MSTR, are you trying to lose your house? Well, why would you ever do this? I don't get this at all. Unless Bitcoin like plummets overnight or something, and you wake up in the morning and buy, you know, that 2x short, or buy the first bounce in the 2x short or whatever, then maybe you do okay. But ultimately, you know, when we talk about how the SEC is all about investor protection, unless it means they can actually make money, where's the protection here? Who's asking for this product?
Defiance is the name of who's providing the prospectus. I'm not sure who has the.
I would love to see what ETFs they have. I have to look right now.
Well, remember this isn't obviously under the SEC's jurisdiction, but Binance at one time had 125 times leverage trades you could do, and I think other exchanges offer that as well. And if they're offering it, there's a market for it.
Yeah.
So there's people out there.
It's all options ETFs actually. So they have there's a few here. NASDAQ 100 enhanced options income ETF, S&P 500 advanced options income ETF, Russell 2000 advanced options ETF, Treasury alternative yield ETF, and S&P 500 income target ETF. So it's mostly derivative stocks. There's some other stuff here too. Quantum. I don't know. Like, come on, Quantum. Give me a break. 5G ETF. I don't know. I get it, but these guys look like a small player. Unless there's more here. No, there's not. They only have about 9.
I never heard of Defiance before this story, but that doesn't say much, to be honest.
Me and you are not the target audience, I guess, right? But interesting all the same. Yeah.
Well, like I was saying, if there were companies out there that were offering up to 125x leverage trades, there's traders out there that I don't know how much money is floating around that's waiting to be invested in this, but you know what? There's people that they're trading everything and anything, and here this is just another option. You know what? The stock market, it's just, we make fun of Binance being a shitcoin casino. Like, come on, it's not like the New York Stock Exchange. The same type of, like, it's.
It is. Of course it is. Look at the stuff you can get. They have 0-day options. They have 0-day to expiry options. It's like insanity. And Zero Hedge already talks about, I'm going to sneeze here. Zero Hedge already talks about how the Bitcoin ETFs get nuked by derivatives. And then that's when you see the big guys buying up their Bitcoin for the ETFs. And that's when the price jumps again, right? Now, Zero Hedge is a little doom and gloom, a little conspiratorial, but sure does happen an awful lot. And so, like, when you talk about, again, investor protection, show me legitimate, tangible investor protection that these guys have done in the last 5 years. There's nothing. Zero. Zip, zilch, nada, nothing. So, like, what are we doing here? This is not like if you're trying to hide it. There's no veil. This is clearly a dangerous product. I should not be allowed to buy this. Because now, like, what's the next logical step, right? Is it the 2x long MSTR?
I'm shocked that they're only offering one of the two. Like the pro shares, to their credit, they're offering both sides of the spectrum. So if you want the long, if you want the bear case or the bull case, you have the options. But these guys are only providing the bear case.
Len, as if there's not enough divorces being caused by the MSTR run up over the last, like you said, 15 months. You got to double the intensity, the inertia behind your asset value decline. Why? For what?
To go back, good for you for not sneezing on the air. Have you ever listened to? I'm going to go into the weeds here. Have you ever listened to some guy named We're Gonna Lose?
No. What's he do?
He just trolls people on games like NASCAR and Call of Duty. So in the NASCAR one, it's just phenomenal stuff. So We're Gonna Lose on YouTube.
I'll find it.
Like, somebody's gonna pass him. He sneezes, a pretend sneeze, and he wrecks them. He does it so many times. It's such a good channel, and the reactions he's getting. He plays football, and when he's the quarterback, he runs back to from the line all the way back. He's like, "Come back! I'm gonna throw you the ball." Good stuff.
I love that.
But the sneezing is when you made me laugh when you
on YouTube rabbit holes. I sent the Corn Lords a video the other day. You guys should watch too. Video Game Donkey talking about Donkey Kong Country and how he's like, I can't believe anyone even plays the game because the intro music is so good. And he just talks about how good the music in the game is. It is awesome. It is a very good video. I love Video Game Donkey's videos. Send it over to me. Yeah, I'll send it to you. I'll put it in the chat. You keep going here.
Well, let's talk about 3 stories. I clumped these together, and these are stories that come from mainstream media. So you ever hear of Bitteroo?
Yeah, actually, I think.
Wow. Okay.
What is it? I'm not guaranteeing I've heard of it, but I think I've heard of it.
So they're an exchange, and they're an Australian-based exchange, and they are Australia. They claim to be Australia's biggest Bitcoin-only exchange.
Okay.
And they also provide services available in New Zealand. Well, they announced this week, unfortunately, that they have been debanked in New Zealand, and their payment processor cannot provide payments in the quote-unquote crypto industry. So, yeah, I don't know, man. When you hear stuff like this, and we hear a few of these every so often, and every time I read it, it seems like it's an indirect attack on Bitcoin. And I suspect you're going to hear more of these moving forward because it just makes sense. One way to hurt Bitcoiners is to prevent the on-ramp, or at least limit the on-ramps, and maybe use the very friendly like Coinbases of the world.
Is the answer. Yeah, this is the answer.
And so that's one story. So then this is the second one. That's why I wanted to clump these 3 together. Is there's a proposal out there by lawmakers in Paraguay, and this is to temporarily ban Bitcoin mining for 6 months. And whenever you hear the word temporary, who knows? It's going to potentially become permanent. It's something that is troubling, obviously, because there has been a effort to expand Bitcoin mining operations in South America, Paraguay included. Paraguay has 100% of their energy coming from hydroelectric. So the narrative that Bitcoin uses dirty energy, it doesn't apply here because, well, the energy that's being produced is quote unquote green.
Wow.
So they say one of the arguments of the law that they're proposing is that there are many illegal Bitcoin farms. So people are plugging in equipment without talking to.
Where are we in the timeline here where there's governments announcing that there are something called illegal Bitcoin farms that need to be shut down?
I guess
I didn't have that on my bingo card. Where are we?
Well, it goes further, Joey, because not only that, and they say this is going to provide some measure to, quote, protect consumers, end quote, of virtual assets. I don't know how that's going to be the case, how this provides a level of protection for consumers, but they believe this is the case. Anyways, that's the second story. The third story is Strike. It looks like they're getting pushed out of Argentina because their payment partners, they're winding down operations. So users in Argentina can no longer pay with Bitcoin through Lightning. Argentina, they have introduced a regulatory framework to closely monitor cryptocurrency transactions and platforms. This comes after Milei came into power.
Yeah.
And so the regulation 994, you can check it out, Argentina regulation 994, it says all wallet providers must be listed and regulated. So they want to know who has what and have to be regulated as well.
Len, who could have seen this coming? Who could have seen this coming, Len? Who could have seen it coming?
I'll be honest, I had no idea. I gave, when he was elected, I had no idea which way he was going to go. I gave him a blank slate and basically let him go. But Anyways, these are 3 stories that I kind of clumped together because they all seem to be an attack on Bitcoin. So I'll just rehash them. We have the Bitterroot story, we have the Paraguay story, and we have the strike getting kicked out, or at least hurt, in Argentina. So 2 of the 3 South American stories. That to me is concerning. Remember, South America, they're trying to push mining in those areas. Also, the citizens over there, they've been wrecked over and over again. Let's give them an opportunity to buy an asset like Bitcoin and use it. But I guess it's all up to lawmakers if they want to allow that to happen. We'll see.
Isn't it true that you and I have been very skeptical about almost all politicians since Eric Adams, maybe even before that? Remember Eric Adams
for me.
Do you remember Eric Adams saying insane?
I was big on him.
Suarez, Adams, like now I just assume all these guys are crooks. I mean, politics is a very difficult game to get into and to keep your principles intact, the things that got you there, arguably. And to hear some of the stories, about Bitterroot and stuff, I would say that's almost the expectation now. That's the baseline, that anyone that's not playing ball with, the same level of cooperation that Coinbase is or FakePay is or whatever, they're going to have a hard time. You've seen it here with Bull Bitcoin. You've seen it with Kraken in the US. You're seeing it with Bitterroot in Australia. That's expected for me. And I think that's something we all have to be concerned about. And we've talked about this before, so it's not new for people who are listening and watching. But the thing that is new is the zeal that people had in their support, like steadfast Teflon support for this Milei guy. Everyone was posting that video about him dashing away one after another. Garbage, big trash, government departments, equity gone, music and arts gone, this one gone, whatever. Well, how's this going for you now? Now this guy is talking about IDing everybody who's got a Bitcoin wallet. Good. What's your plan to get rid of him? This guy, you got completely fleeced. The lesson here is that no matter who you vote for, the inertia heading towards the algorithm ghetto is too strong to fight back against with an election. Period. End of story. You can vote as hard as you want for whichever color. I saw a quote a little while ago. It's like people reach into a bag of marbles where half of them are red and half of them are blue. They cry if the wrong color comes out and cheer if the right color comes out. At the end of the day, they're all just fucking marbles. And you're at that point now. I think a lot of people realize that. Bitcoiners realize that because everyone's been memeing this vote harder thing or, whatever for a long time. But you can't vote your way out of this. So what do? People have to vote with their money, right? And so you vote with your money. You vote where you put down roots. You vote where you find employment. You vote where you contribute to your community and things like that. But voting at the ballot box, it doesn't do anything. Even in the countries where politicians are sort of the most adverse to, we'll call it, this sort of modern Western direction, you still are counting on basically 4 years of bubble wrapping the politics and principles that got them into power and not conceding to what is ultimately just an incredible grinding machine in every Western democracy. No one escapes this. There just hasn't been an example of a politician who's ever ruled the way they campaigned. The best example of this, I think, is Obama. Obama ran on this campaign of change and hope, and he dropped bombs like they were COD kill streaks all over the fucking world. For 8 years, he did that. And, he didn't run on change at all. He put in the American Healthcare Act, whatever that was, the Affordable Care Act. That was a handout to insurance companies. You got fleeced. And that should have been the wake-up call for people. And in the States, to some extent, it was. They voted for Trump right after that. But this idea that, whoever you vote for is going to really help you and deliver on the promises of salvation that they make in order to get you to scribble in their name at the box, you got another thing coming. And if you don't get it by now, like a wise man once said, I don't have time to explain it to you.
What did Milei say about Bitcoin through his campaign? Because to the best of my knowledge, he said nothing.
Yeah, I don't think so either. He was just more of an anti, big state guy. But I mean, it's in line. I think you and I described him as a Bitcoiner without Bitcoin, right? He has a lot of the same ethos, but clearly now he's not. Clearly that was, I think, cautious optimism on our part, and he really, flip that on its head. So
I think what he campaigned on, from my vantage point, it seems like he delivered on those. He's delivering on those promises. He said he was going to be cutting the public sector, and he's done that. So the stuff that he's talked about, I think that he's gone ahead but there's things that he didn't talk about, and people were trying to fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they filled it in wrong. That's the reality.
That's one way to put it. Yeah. It seems that way, right? And it's still early, right? Who knows how much further he'll go? This is
true.
Early days for him to be doing this right away. That's not promising, I don't think.
Well, remember Mike Harris when he first was elected?
Yeah. Tell people who Mike Harris is if they don't know. We have a younger crowd sometimes. I think he was the premier in like 96 in Ontario, 95. Right? Something like that. Yeah, okay.
95 to 99, and then 99 to 2002-ish before Ernie Eves took over from him. He was our premier in Ontario. He took over right after Bob Rae's NDP were in power. And so when he came in, Ontario was coming out of a recession, and they were heavily in debt. And so he was saying he's going to be slashing and burning. That's what his campaign was. They elected him, and he did exactly what he did. And people were upset at that because a lot of people suffered as a result of it. But that was his campaign, and he followed through on that. And for the first term, the second term, he sold it the 407 or leased it for 99 years to win it.
Well, because they don't care. Second term president, prime minister, premier, whatever, just doesn't care because they no longer have to worry about votes, right? And in Canada, it's a little different, I guess. You can just be premier indefinitely and until you die or whatever. But
no, there's still
there's a shelf life. You're right. There's a shelf life. Exactly. We agree on that. It may not be codified, but there's for sure a shelf life in every ruling epoch. So yeah,
100%. It's like a coach in sports. It lasts for only so long.
Can't lose the locker room.
Yes, and in this case, the constituents. I guess we'll do one quick story, maybe two more, depending how much time. I just want to. This is really, really quick. There's a lot of noise out there. And if you look at what's going on Stacker, on X, there seems to be a lot of noise out there between Seed Steiner and CoinKite or / Cold Card products.
Yep.
Now, I just want to say out in this, I have no skin in the game, none. I have Cold Card. I like my Cold Card. I recommend a Cold Card. There may be other products that are just as good as better. I'm not sure of any right now, but I'm not saying that there aren't.
Bull recommends Cold Card too, right? That's in there. Sweet Odell. A lot of guys recommend Cold Card. You're not alone.
Yeah, it's like a good product. So there's so much noise out there. Try to sift through this, and there's going to be a lot of FUD being thrown out there. I'm not trying to say a particular product is what you should be buying. Like I said, I like a Cold Card. I use it. Do your own research. There may be something better out there, but I haven't come across it. But just please do your own research. There seems to be a lot of mud being slung around, and I think it's hurting the community more than anything else. There are good products. Like I mentioned, Cold Card I'm not going to upgrade my Cold Card. I could buy a Q. And the reason why I'm not going to buy a Q is because I like my Cold Card. I would hate to see that mothballed and collect dust. That's how much I like my Cold Card. I want to continually use it moving forward. And it's not a slam against the Q. That's a testament to how much I like my Cold Card. But just all this garbage just being thrown out there, the mud being slung, name calling and arguments and all this bullshit. Man, oh man, I fucking hate it. Just if you are out there and you're trying to look at a product to buy, try to sift through that noise out there. There is signal, but you just have to find it. It is there.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, short of Ledger, maybe Trezor too. I don't know that much about what they got going on. I think they have a Bitcoin only hardware device now, but you're not going to really do too much to move off what you have. Like Len said, if you have a hardware wallet that works for you and you understand and are competent with, it's really important. And Cold Card's not for everyone. Seed Signer's not for everyone. Ledger, Trezor, whatever, the foundation devices, Keystone, you name it. Lots of options out there. The new block one, what's that one called? The Pebble or something? I forget. But yeah, tons of options, man. The most important thing is it's secure. Your keys are offline. It's open source, and you know how to use it. You have to know how to use it. That's important. Everything else is just noise, including the mudslinging online.
So one of the things people are saying is that Cold Card is not open source verifiable. You can look at the source code.
Yeah.
You could, but the thing is, because they own the source code, they're not going to allow anybody to take advantage of it and to profit from it. And that's fine. That's their prerogative. If they want to do that, that's their choice. But you can still, if you want, you could check the source code. It is there for you to look at. And if you think there's something that's fishy in it, I don't think anybody does, but it's freely available. Check it out, take a look at it, and I guess I'll say one last story, really, really quick.
Sure.
This is just hot off the shelf. Bloomberg is saying that El Salvador is buying back some of their debt, and this is a positive forward-looking indicator, and it shows that the solid footing of Bukele's government is standing on. So they're saying they're going to be buying back bonds at risk as risk premiums fall. The country will be offering to repurchase bonds due in 2025, 2027, 2029. So that's...
I am eating crow on this in a major way.
Well, I'm not sure. Like, I just thought this is interesting. I talked to Jaime Garcia
about a month
2 weeks ago.
No,
yeah, maybe a month, and we talked significantly at length about what's going on in El Salvador. The country has turned around. It's like on 180 in terms of the safety and the economics over there. There seems to be a lot of positive momentum going on over there. So lots of work to do, but it's so much better than it was a few years ago, and it's a lot has to do with Bukele's policies that he's instituted. So what's going on here? I like what's being done here. I talked in the past about the Bitcoin bonds. I wasn't too impressed about them, but with respect for them trying to buy back the bonds, it goes to show you that I think they're doing the right thing, and they're thumbing their nose at the IMF through all this, and I like it. You know?
Probably doing more with other fingers to the IMF too. I think actually, yeah, I'm pretty sure. You know, I'm worried. The thing about El Salvador and Hervoye Morich, who's a friend of the show. Everyone should be listening to Geopolitics and Empire because it's a good show. He raised a good point with me after we recorded, and it might have even been during the program too. Bukele's made public comments about how he wants to turn El Salvador and the rest of LATAM into a European Union style state. And like, I that's one thing I wanted to ask Jaime. I didn't go to that episode, but I do want to talk to him. Maybe I'll message him on Twitter, or Jaime, if you're listening. What do you make of something like that? You know, isn't that alarming? Because that's really, really dicey stuff to basically, you know, abdicate your sovereignty to a supranational body that's largely unelected. I mean, Len, if you think it's hard to get your city councilor to fucking do something for you, wait till you see what it's like when you only have a representative in a supranational legislative body. It's, I'm sure, much harder, as the European countries are finding out the hard way in a lot of ways. But it's like the worst thing you could say, and it really flies in the face of everything else he's doing. He doesn't seem bothered by outside influence when it comes to stuff like the IMF, but wants to hop onto a multi-state structure with other LATAM countries. Why? Either he thinks he can be the dominant player in that ecosystem, that environment, which, I don't know, a little Machiavellian, but it works. I get that. But what's the other rationale? What could the other rationale be? That he wants to take away sovereignty from people or from his state, or I don't know. I don't know what it is.
The details. Like if it's strictly like just engaging and setting up trade agreements with other countries, maybe then
you can choose your words a lot more carefully, right? He's very careful with what he says. As Jaime has pointed out, he comes from a PR background and a sort of a light show and fireworks background, figuratively speaking, of course. I don't think he actually does pyrotechnics, but he knows what to say and why to say it and how to say it. For him to say that, he's not just talking off he never speaks off the cuff, I would argue. And I think that for him to say that is a little alarming. I don't know. Jaime's welcome back on the show anytime. So maybe we got to have him back on. We could have Jaime and Hervoye on at the same time and maybe get some insights there. Host a little debate between those two guys.
Let's make it happen if it's possible.
Yeah,
that'd be a good listen.
I think Hervoye can only really rip. Maybe because he left TNT Radio. So maybe you could do one at night. I don't know. I'll talk to him. We can see about that for the summer when the schedule dries up inevitably.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Joey? Let's wrap up this Bitcoin segment and move on to the notable stories.
Sure. This time. Looking forward to the notables. If you're on video, do nothing. If you're on audio, I guess, you could also do nothing, but tomorrow the rest of it will come to your feed. You can do whatever you want if you're on audio, really. But video, please stay there. And we'll see you when we see you.
Don't be a cock. Are you a fan of the old school NHL 94 game on the Genesis or SNES? Why not check out my show, the NHL 94 podcast? From tournaments and tactics to the people who make up this community. Check it out wherever you listen to podcasts or find it on YouTube.